In a recent coverage, the New York Post reported that 3I Atlas might not be a comet at all. The paper warns that this interstellar object may be hiding a swarm of unknown bodies riding ahead of it closer to the Sun, almost like an escort. If you are coming to the story fresh, that sounds like the setup to a science fiction thriller. A foreign object slings into the solar system once, trailing a possible fleet. If you have been following 3I Atlas for months, it feels more like the next escalation in a sequence of increasingly bold claims. The object has gone from rare visitor to possible probe to pulsing heartbeat to alleged swarm. But what has actually been observed, and how far do the New York Post's conclusions reach beyond the data? The starting point is straightforward. 3I Atlas is the third confirmed interstellar object ever detected in our solar system, after 1I Oumuamua and 2I Borisov. Its orbit is hyperbolic, meaning the Sun's gravity bends its path but cannot capture it. It dove toward the inner solar system, past the Sun at roughly 1.5 times Earth's orbital distance, and is now on its way back out into interstellar space. Telescopic observations show a fuzzy coma of dust and gas surrounding a compact nucleus. Spectra reveals familiar comet ingredients: water vapor, carbon dioxide, and other volatile molecules boiling off as sunlight heats the surface. In that sense, the object behaves like a highly active long-period comet, except that it arrived from outside the Sun's planetary family and is moving faster than any known comet bound to our star. From this base of solid astronomy, the New York Post has built a much more dramatic narrative. One of its earliest pieces on 3I Atlas described the object as Manhattan-sized and highlighted estimates that if its density is similar to ordinary cometary material, its mass could reach tens of billions of tons. The same reporting emphasized that its orbit shows small but measurable deviations from what gravity alone would predict. Those deviations are expected for active comets because jets of gas act like weak rocket engines. Nonetheless, the Post framed them as suggestive of something more deliberate, echoing arguments from Avi Loeb, the Harvard astrophysicist who has become the central scientific voice in its coverage. Loeb's involvement is crucial to understanding why the story has taken the shape it has. He previously suggested that Oumuamua could have been artificial, perhaps a light sail or a fragment of alien technology. With 3I Atlas, he has again chosen to explore technological possibilities alongside natural ones. In interviews and essays that the New York Post quotes extensively, he points out that the non-gravitational acceleration appears weaker than expected given the observed level of outgassing, which implies a larger mass for the nucleus. A more massive object is harder to move with natural jets, which, in his view, slightly raises the plausibility that some of the observed effects could be produced intentionally rather than incidentally. The second major thread in the Post's narrative is the so-called heartbeat. Astronomers monitoring 3I Atlas over time have detected a repeating pattern in its brightness, a modulation with a period of roughly 16 hours. The conventional explanation is that the nucleus is irregular and rotates with that period. Parts of its surface are more active than others. As those active regions rotate into sunlight, they emit more gas and dust, brightening the coma. When they rotate away or exhaust local volatile material, the brightness drops and the cycle repeats. Loeb, however, has argued that because the coma dominates the light we see, the pattern might instead be driven by jets within the coma itself. The New York Post, picking up that thread, presents the heartbeat as a potential control signal, an engineered, engine-like cadence rather than a passive spin. The Post goes further, speculating about what such controlled jets could accomplish. One scenario it highlights is the idea of 3I Atlas using beams of energy or directed outgassing to clear its path of smaller particles, effectively plowing through the interplanetary medium. Another is that it might use these jets to fine-tune its trajectory towards specific targets, such as Jupiter.
In this framing, the comet ceases to be a random intruder and becomes a guided vehicle, following a planned route through the solar system and possibly preparing to release smaller devices as it passes major planets. The newest and most attention-grabbing element in the New York Post's coverage is the swarm. After perihelion, telescopes began to resolve a structure around 3I Atlas that does not match the stereotypical image of a comet with a single tail trailing away from the sun. Instead, observers have seen a broad, wedge-shaped glow pointing partially sunward, forming what comet specialists call an anti-tail. This effect can arise naturally when dust particles spread along the comet's orbit, and the viewing angle from Earth lines up with that dust sheet so that material appears to project toward the sun. The Post, focusing again on Loeb's alternative interpretation, reports that he views this region as a swarm of discrete objects traveling tens of thousands of kilometers closer to the sun than the main nucleus. According to this hypothesis, the swarm's motion does not show the same non-gravitational acceleration as the nucleus, suggesting that the swarm members respond differently to gas jets or are not outgassing at all. From there, the speculation branches. These bodies might be natural fragments shed earlier in the comet's journey, or they might be artificial components escorting the main object. The New York Post leans heavily into that second option in its headlines and social media posts, framing the anti-tail as a possible fleet of probes either launched by or traveling with 3I Atlas. Alongside this, it has highlighted disagreements and delays around images and data. One story focused on a high-resolution frame captured by a camera on a Mars-orbiting spacecraft when 3I Atlas passed near the planet. Loeb has publicly complained that he requested access to the image and did not receive it promptly, characterizing the situation as bureaucratic rather than conspiratorial, but nonetheless frustrating. The Post presents this as part of a pattern in which, in its view, space agencies are slow to release potentially important visuals that might confirm or refute unusual interpretations. It connects this with his comments on certain spectral features, such as an apparent nickel signal with little corresponding iron, which he regards as atypical for natural comets. Throughout all of this, NASA and most of the astronomical community have maintained a more restrained description of 3I Atlas. Official materials describe it as an interstellar comet composed of water ice, carbon-bearing molecules, and dust, with activity driven by solar heating. The 16-hour brightness modulation is treated as a rotational light curve. The non-gravitational accelerations are attributed to asymmetric outgassing. And the anti-tail is approached as a problem in dust dynamics and viewing geometry. When radio emission associated with the comet was detected, the interpretation offered was consistent with molecules produced by solar radiation acting on water, not with any encoded or structured signal. The difference between these two ways of talking about the same object is not primarily about the observations themselves. Both the New York Post and the scientific community are drawing from the same pool of numbers: brightness over time, spectra at different wavelengths, measurements of the orbit as it evolves under gravity and jetting. What differs is the threshold at which one introduces extraordinary explanations. For most planetary scientists, the working rule is that one should exhaust and stress test all natural models before seriously entertaining technological ones. For the Post, speculation about alien engineering is an essential part of the story from the outset, helping to frame each new piece of data in a way that readers will find compelling. Seen in that light, the question is not whether the New York Post is inventing facts. It usually is not. The heartbeat, the anti-tail, the non-gravitational accelerations, and the estimates of mass are all rooted in real measurements. What the article does is select a particular set of interpretations, primarily those put forward by Loeb, and present them with the same urgency as more conservative conclusions. Phrases such as "could be a probe," "might be clearing its path," or "may be hiding a swarm of objects" are technically couched in conditional language, but in headlines and thumbnails, they imprint as direct associations. Comet equals craft, tail equals fleet. From a factual standpoint, the current situation can be summarized plainly. 3I Atlas is an interstellar object with comet-like composition and behavior. Its brightness varies periodically, most likely because of rotation and uneven activity. Its trajectory shows small deviations that can be produced by jets of escaping gas. Its tail sometimes appears in a sunward-leaning configuration that can be produced by dust aligned in the orbital plane. Alternative technological explanations, engines, beams, probes, swarms, have been proposed by one prominent scientist and amplified by a major newspaper, but they remain speculative and are not required by the data. Whether future observations will force a reassessment is an open question, but at present, the weight of evidence still favors a natural origin. This rare interstellar visitor will soon be too faint to study in detail. Once 3I Atlas recedes into deep space, no further corrections or confirmations will be possible. The measurements taken now of its composition, its spin, its jets, its dust, will form the permanent record. How that record is interpreted and how stories about it are told will continue to evolve long after the comet is gone. The New York Post's portrayal of a heartbeat-driven, swarm-escorted possible probe is one such story. The more cautious picture painted by most comet specialists is another. The task for anyone trying to understand 3I Atlas is to keep those layers distinct. What has been seen, what has been calculated, and what has been imagined on top of it.